You are watching Access LaPorte County Channel 97. Coming up next is the January 21st special meeting of the Long Beach Town Council. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Welcome everyone to the special meeting to discuss the paving of Lakeshore Drive. Could we please stand for the pledge?
It's okay, Henry.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Meg, could you please do a roll call?
Sure. President Joy Schmidt,
Present.
Anita Remages,
Present.
Kendra Bartlett,
Here.
Colleen Lane,
Here.
Cindy Levy,
Here.
Chief Swistek,
Present.
Clerk Collins, I am present. We also have Ryan Laughlin and Sam Jose with Haas Engineering, and that concludes roll.
Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone for coming and everyone on Zoom. We're going to start with a discussion with Haas and Associates with the engineers, and they're going to discuss the conceptual design of the Lakeshore Drive paving improvements that they recommend. So this is Sam and Ryan.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Before we go into the talking about the key decisions and options, I just want to define some terminologies. The comments we've received so far have been very helpful. So I just want to talk about some of the terminologies that I think we should understand so we'll be on the same page and in our understanding. So the first is existing geometry of the roadway. The existing geometry of the roadway, it simply means how the roadway looks today. The lane width, and the cross sections, how it looks today. So that's what we need to know about the existing geometry. Another thing that's a question that's been repeated severally is the horizontal alignment of the roadway, and this refers to how it curves. Sorry, better. I'm so sorry. Okay, so the first is existing geometry of the roadway, which means how the roadway is right now, the lanes, and how close it is to the right of way, just the way it is. And if you look at the exhibit that is shown here, the existing geometry of the roadway is the solid hatch. And the second terminology I want to talk about is the horizontal alignment of the roadway. It means how the roadway moves from the right to the left and where we have curves. So that is simply what the horizontal alignment, the existing horizontal alignment means. And the third option, the third terminology I want to talk about is the roadway cross section. If you slice the roadway, we just imagine that there's a slice of the roadway. You see the travel lane. If there's a shoulder, you see the shoulder. If there's a lateral offset, and if there's an adjacent driveway, that is what the roadway cross section means. The fourth I want to talk about is the lateral offset. The lateral offset is a distance from the edge of the roadway to the nearest obstruction in the outside of the roadway. So say the edge of the roadway is 1 foot from say a stop sign or a retaining wall or say a curb that is not in the same elevation with the edge of the roadway. That's the lateral offset. The lateral offset doesn't actually mean that the roadway will extend or the pavement will extend to that portion of the roadway. It just means the clearance. So say a car is coming and someone wants to take refuge somewhere. So lateral offset could be a very good place to just stop by and the car will pass. So there's no obstruction. It's not tight. So that's what the lateral offset means. Then the shoulder. Shoulder is a structural element of the roadway that confines the roadway. And sometimes in roads where you have shoulder, it's most times the same material with the roadway. Maybe not of the same structural strength, but the shoulder is it confines the roadway base, and helps the roadway to stay longer. So if there is an adjacent driveway near the edge of pavement, shoulder is not going to be required in that location because there is a confinement that is offered by the adjacent driveway. So another question another terminology is realignment. What does it mean? Realignment doesn't mean that the roadway you will just change the geometry of the roadway everywhere. It means that there will be a targeted, selective change in alignment or how the behavior of the roadway in certain locations that are tight, or in certain locations that there's a very sharp curve, just so that there will be smooth ride. It's a safety feature. So it's a safety protocol to realign the road in certain locations so that there will be safety and also there will be consistency. Now, looking at the exhibit, you can see that the solid hatch is the existing roadway, while the cross hatch is, say we choose a 10-foot lane and it ends up being 20 foot. Now, we are trying to make sure that there is consistency in the width of the roadway. That means that in certain locations, there will be a reduction in the cross section of the roadway where it is more than 20 foot, whereas in certain locations, there will be a slight adjustment so that the roadway will be consistent all through. Now, judging from the conceptual plan we have here and looking at what we have, the net area of the roadway actually reduced when it's consistent all through from stop 13 to stop 31. So that means that it is not actually widening. It's making sure that the roadway is consistent. If you look at the one that is down, you will see that the crosshatch is the proposed roadway. So what's happening there? There's a shrink in the roadway, whereas the one on top shows that there's a slight adjustment just for consistency's sake, so that we will have the same width from stop 13 to stop 31. So those are the terminologies I thought we should know, get into talking about the options. So I'll turn it over to Ryan to talk more about it.
Sam, if I could just add one more, since we're on terminology, reflective cracking. Reflective cracking has come up consistently in some of our dialogue. Over the last couple of decades, we've had a lot of excavation that's occurred on Lakeshore Drive. That's excavation for gas lines, electrical lines, repair of other pipes, stormwater pipes are under the road and that. Can you kind of explain what reflective cracking is and how, when we've undermined the subgrade of Lakeshore Drive, what causes the reflective cracking?
The original pavement along Lakeshore Drive is concrete. So the concrete has been paved over time, and the concrete is a harder surface compared to the asphalt, meaning that when there's settlement, the concrete is already hard, but adjacent, the contiguous area outside of the concrete settles. And when it settles, there's a crack that forms that propagates up to the existing pavement. So that is called reflective cracking. Also, the concrete that is the base of the roadway right now in some areas it has failed. As it is cracking underneath, the crack propagates to the surface, and that crack continues to be there. That for you to really fix that problem, you have to get to that concrete. It's either it is removed entirely or it is remediated and the road is paved over again. But reflective cracking is just happening because of the difference in material of the roadway, and the roadway has been widened over time. It is not the original concrete is smaller in width compared to what we have right now, so the crack will always come up. And we talked about it in the report, how about the options of just, I know Ryan is going to go into it and talk about the option, but in simple terms, reflective cracking is just a reflection of the crack, either from the edges of the concrete or from the deteriorated concrete itself, concrete base that propagates up to the existing roadway as it stands right now. So I'll hand it over to Ryan to talk about the options.
Good evening, everyone, or good morning, I should say. Thank you, Sam, for those an explanation of that terminology. I will probably use some of that terminology as I describe some of the options here and the design parameters that the town will think about and make decisions on today. And we're here obviously to answer questions. So if there's any confusion about these terms as we continue, we can address them further. But basically what the purpose of the meeting here is today is to get us from the conceptual phase of this project into preliminary design, where we can start to so the project can actually start to take shape, and we can start laying out where the roadway is going to be and see how a proposed design might interact with existing features in the right of way and what it would look like. And then after that, once that preliminary design is refined with further input from the public and the council, et cetera, then we will move it into a final design. So that's kind of where we're at right now in the grand project life cycle. So the council is going to make a decision about 4 different options that are described in the report, and then also some design parameters affect those 4 different options. So what are the 4 different options? We looked at, there could be more, but we had to kind of bring it down to a manageable set of selections and options for consideration. So the 4 options that we have here are A, milling and paving, and basically maintaining the existing geometry and alignment of the road. So this is the lowest cost option, but it also gives the roadway the least improvement in terms of durability and long-term strength. So mill and pave is 4 inches. We remove existing pavement and we put back 4 inches of asphalt. That's all it is. It's very simple. It's not going to address some of the underlying problems with the road that were described just a moment ago about the reflective cracking, the existing slab, et cetera. Those things aren't going to be addressed by that kind of a solution. So those problems, you will see them go away initially, but then they will pretty quickly come back and get worse and worse. And effectively, you'll be in the same situation that you're in now in a pretty short amount of time. Option number, with something like this, it's not, I can't just tell you, well, it'll be 3 years or 3.5 years or something like that. It depends on a lot of different factors, and it's hard to predict something like that. But, it could be within the next 5 years, you'll start to see some significant deterioration. Certainly the cracking will come back and deterioration will be evident. Option B, mill and pave with cross-section consistency and selective realignment. So that's similar to option A, but it's a little bit better because we'll be, in addition to milling out 4 inches of existing asphalt and putting it back, we'll also be increasing the support under that asphalt for any areas that are outside of the existing concrete slab. So the concrete slab provides a pretty strong base for the asphalt. Outside of that area, it's different kinds of materials, and they're not uniform throughout and they don't provide us. So we'll try to rectify that and also bridge that gap a little bit and try to mitigate a little bit the negative effects of the reflective cracking that can happen. So that's a little bit more costly, but it improves the quality of the road a little bit as well. And we'll do some of that realignment of the road to try to make sure that there's a consistent road width and we don't have weird jumps and tight pinching spots in the roadway. So there'll be a little bit of that as well. That's option B. Option C is a full reconstruction of the roadway, but we'll keep the existing alignment. So a full reconstruction means, I mean, that's a pretty invasive process where you're going to excavate down to the subgrade, the existing dune sand that's underlying everything out there, and then rebuild the road from scratch, basically. So you'll have a completely new road that'll be completely homogeneous in terms of the materials, which is going to give you a lot of long-term durability, much, much more than just milling and paving. So you're looking at something more in the line of like 40-year lifespan with a reconstruction situation and, you know, with routine maintenance. You'll still see some cracks and things, but you're not going to have this structural support deterioration that you have now or that you may still have when you do option A or B. So it's a much better end product and will last longer. Yes.
The problem, if you, the audience can't hear you, we have about 45 people on Zoom. So if you need a question, we're allowing questions right now. If they have a question, they need to come up to the podium and speak in the microphone. I understand, but people can't hear otherwise. Yeah.
Okay, so that was option C. And then option D, similar to, you know, how A and B are related, C and D are related, and that D takes what we're presenting in option C and just adds that selective realignment where we're just trying to create some uniformity in the road, in the roadway throughout the length of the road. So it's marginally more expensive than option C. So that's kind of the idea there. Option A and B, it's a less durable, longer lasting product with two options: keep the existing alignment or refine the alignment. And then C and D is a reconstruction. Those are both reconstruction options. One is keep the existing alignment. Two is make small refinements to improve the alignment. So that's the idea of options A through D.
Ryan, as we look back on a lot of the documents that both we posted on the town's website and has been shared with the council, one of the things, Lakeshore Drive has not been repaved in over 30 years. We estimate it was early 90s since it was last paved. As we talk about the various options in that, one of the things we shared with the town council is the cost. There's a variation, obviously, as all of you have seen, from like 2.7 million to 4.7 million. If we were to wait 10, 20 years from now and do full reconstruction then, I think we all would agree the cost of material and labor at that time is going to be much more significant than if we were to tackle that project currently now and go down and do that subgrade all the way down, correct?
There's no question of that. I mean, naturally, inflation is going to cause that, but there could be other things that would affect that as well. You know, numerous factors. So absolutely agree with that. Okay, so that covers the options. And then I was saying before that the council will also need to make some determinations about design parameters. So I'll describe that here briefly.
Recorded.
So one of the design parameters is the lane width. You know, we've talked about that kind of extensively. There's been some talk about widening. You know, that could occur depending on what's chosen here. I think the average width of the existing road is something like 19.25 feet. So it's roughly 10-foot lanes now. So we talked about potentially doing 9-foot lanes or 10-foot lanes or 11-foot lanes. Early on, there was even discussion of 12-foot lanes. The options presented to the council right now for lane width are 9, 10, and 11-foot lanes. The engineering recommendation is 10-foot lanes. It's a good middle ground. We've discussed the justification for that extensively in the report and in the prior presentation. 10-foot keeps it very similar to what's out there and is very appropriate for this road. So that's where that recommendation comes from. But that's a decision that needs to be made formally by the council so that we can take that and actually develop the plans. The second design parameter is roadway markings. So that's like, is there a center line in the road? Are there edge lines on the road? If there's a center line, what type of center line is that? So in whether those lines exist out there in the right of way can have some somewhat significant psychological effects on drivers and pedestrians and how everyone uses the road. So you could have a center line that's dashed. You could have a center line that's a double line that makes it so people don't pass. It prevents passing. You could have edge lines only and no center line, or you could have edge lines and some kind of center line. So those are like the four options that you could have there. Based on all of our research and design on this, our recommendation is that there are no lines placed out there simply because that creates the most uncertainty for drivers, which causes them to have a much more heightened awareness of their surroundings. And that creates a safer environment for pedestrians, which are extensively using this roadway all the time. So it creates a shared space where everyone slows down and everyone pays more attention. And we think that will make for the safest end product. But that's not regulated by any specific design standard. So the council could decide to do something different than that. And there's no perfect answer there. So, you know, there are trade-offs, but our recommendation is no markings. Again, that's something that needs to be decided by the council. The next design parameter that will need to be decided by the council is the lateral offset. And then we actually break that into two different terms, the minimum lateral offset and like a desired lateral offset. So as Sam was explaining before, the lateral offset is we've got our road, our two lanes. Here's the edge of the lane on either side of the road. Sorry. Thank you. The lateral offset is from the edge of the road out to some distance. So if we decide that the lateral offset is 2 feet, then that means within that 2-foot area outside of the roadway, we're going to remove vertical obstructions. If that's 3 feet, then anything within that 3-foot zone gets removed. If it's 4 feet, it gets removed. So rather than just having one blanket rule that's applied for the entire corridor, we thought it might be better to have a minimum, that is, everywhere we're going to apply this without question, and then a desired where we say, okay, if it's convenient in a particular location to achieve, say, 4 feet, then let's do that. If it's going to be very costly or difficult for some reason to do that, then maybe we don't. So it's more of a selective thing, but the minimum would be applied in all cases along the entire road. Again, to just help create some uniformity on the road corridor. So that's why there's a minimum and then there's a desired. The recommendation from us is establish a 1-foot minimum lateral offset everywhere. And then the desired lateral offset would be 4 feet, and that's consistent with the recommendations from prominent design guidance for roadways all across America. So those are the design parameters. Those things taken with the options, those can modify the costs that are shown here as well. You know, if we have a very large lateral offset, that means we have to do more work outside of the roadway. That's going to increase the cost of the project. So, you know, if we had a 12-foot lane, it's not one of the options, but let's just say we did. It's obviously more material, right? So that's going to be more costly. You do a 9-foot lane, that's going to be less costly. So they do affect the costs that are shown here in the report. So that will have to be taken into account. But again, our recommendations to summarize here, lane width 10 feet, markings, no markings, minimum lateral offset 1 foot, desired lateral offset 4 feet. We have not made a recommendation about whether to choose option A, B, C, or D. That's really a political and financial decision for the council to make. So with that, I guess I'll turn it back over to the council And then, of course, we're here to answer any further questions or anything that anyone may have. And if you have any questions right now, I can attempt to answer them.
My only question is, when you say selective realignment, that means we're going to avoid driveways?
I think the goal, and this is something that we've talked about a lot, is with any realignment is to try to make that as least impactful on the adjacent stakeholders as possible. So if we can move the road in a way that, thread the needle, so to speak, and keep impacts to both sides of the road as low as possible, that's what we would do.
Thanks, Ryan.
Ryan, can you explain to the audience why we're holding today's meeting because of the upcoming deadlines with the grant and the necessity for the council to make these decisions to allow your office to have our application ready for the state?
Absolutely, Mark. So like I was saying before, where are we at in the project life cycle? We're at the end of the conceptual phase where we're talking big numbers and broad ideas, and we're trying to get ourselves into the preliminary design phase where we start to take those ideas and put them onto paper and actually see what kind of a road is going to be developed. And then after that preliminary phase, there's the final design phase that is going to refine and create the documents necessary to construct the road. So that's kind of where we're right in between conceptual and preliminary. Without guidance from the council on these broad ideas about what the road could be, we can't develop the preliminary plans. So with decisions made today, we will be able to develop those plans. And then at some point soon, after those plans are in an initial draft of those plans are developed, there'll be more public input, I believe, and there will be more refinement to that design before it goes into final design. So there's still a lot that needs to be done. And as you were mentioning about the grant, a significant funding mechanism for this project is through the INDOT Community Crossings Matching Grant. That program has been, I won't go into a lot of detail about it, but that program has been changed by state legislature last year, and they're spending far less money on it and giving out less money. So it's much more competitive than it was in previous years. The deadline for the application, and sorry, let me back up. And they are only doing one grant application call per year now, whereas before they were doing two. So a lot has changed, and it's much more competitive. So the deadline for applications in 2026 is July 1st. So you need to have all of your ducks in a row. Your whole project needs to be kind of like shovel ready almost, with no uncertainty left, so that you can have a very good application and thereby increase your chances of being awarded the money. So that's where the timeline here comes into play. We need to get these things moving so that we don't have to crunch at the very last minute and potentially suffer a result of not getting the grant funds.
Thank you, Ron.
Okay, we're going to open up to public comments. They'll be limited to 3 minutes, and we're going to start with the audience that's here. So if you have a comment, please come up to the microphone. Anybody in the audience?
Name and address.
Please give us your name and address.
Hi, my name is Bob Boyce. I live at 2926 Lakeshore Drive. I couldn't pass this opportunity up. Most of the people that I have talked to are not interested in how you're going to build a road. They don't need any of that information. It just confuses people. What they want to know is how it's going to affect them. Now, we all know that the south side of Lakeshore Drive, the profile is dictated by the telephone poles, and NIPSCO's not going to move them. So any widening that will be done in that area will be done on the north side, and it'll be done on the north side properties, and it will affect everybody on the north side of Lakeshore Drive. Now, I can afford to give away property where I'm at because I'm set back a long way, but my neighbors aren't. And I think when you start getting down past 24, down to 18 in that, you're going to find that you're going to be intruding on people's property. And I don't know if the restoration is going to be borne by the town or it's going to be borne by the property owner. So my advice would be that you should have a profile of what Haas is going to give to the town and make sure that all the people that are going to be affected are notified and made aware of what's going to happen to them. Now, if you start taking and say, we're going to use 4 feet, but 4 feet's going to come out of a house on the north side of Lakeshore Drive and 0 on the south side because of the telephone poles, that's not fair or favorable. Now, I think that should be looked at real close because anything we do is going to affect anybody. And the Lakeshore Drive is the major taxpayers that fund this town. You don't want to get them mad at you. I wouldn't think. So I would caution the town council, which hold the purse strings, that they should look long and hard at what's going to happen here because it affects everybody. Now, repaving, no problem. I understand that. But over the years, a lot of things have been done. I can give a good example because it's right diagonal to me. It's the Walls old property. Now, John and Larry don't live there anymore, so I can kind of voice my opinion on it. There's a buttress there.
I'm not sure people really know what you're talking about.
You have 10 seconds.
I think you have
I
10
think
seconds
that
left.
There's an intrusion on Lakeshore Drive that makes it to where
Your time.
3
is up.
minutes, Bob.
cut back, it's going to affect everybody on the north side.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ryan, before we take any more public comments, we did discuss telephone poles or NIPSCO pole, utility poles. And we discussed having NIPSCO move them. Is that still in the plan if it's required?
Yeah, so the comment about the poles is an important one, and you're right that they do exist out there on the south side of the road, and they are an impediment. I can't speak to the legality of it. I believe that those poles, if they need to be relocated in order to make way for adjustments in the road, that would be something done at NIPSCO's cost. That's my understanding. Is that correct?
That's what the engineers shared with us, and that they would replace it with like materials, that we can't request that it's now underground utilities. If it's currently a pole, they replace it with a pole.
Right. So a pole can be moved, but they're not going to bury it or anything like that. That would be far too costly. But a relocation of the pole can be done and would be done at NIPSCO's cost. So if the road realignment necessitates moving those poles, then that's what would happen. But again, the goal is to keep the least amount of impact to the adjacent stakeholders as possible.
Thank you.
And you wouldn't take it from one side, not the other, like he mentioned, the north side gets more because the south side would it be?
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to the poles, I think since that's not going to be a town cost, I don't think that we're going to try to avoid those at all costs and then unfairly take, space away
The
from
other
the north side of the right of way and not the south side. So, but at the end of the day, we're going to try to do the best possible alignment with the least effects to everyone adjacent to the road.
Thank you, Ryan. Any more comments from the audience?
So Ryan, if we go with a 10-foot.
Give us your name,
Oh,
please.
Pablo May, 2201 Oakenwell. If we go with a 10-foot lane width and a minimum obstruction width of 1 foot, and after you do your uniform width and your realignment, am I right in saying that we could potentially have a situation where a lateral obstruction is 11 feet from the center of the road? Or am I missing something?
So if the lanes are 10 feet, that's a 20-foot road cross section. And if there's a 1-foot minimum lateral offset, that would mean any obstructions that are within 11 feet of the center line would be removed so that there are no longer obstructions. That's correct, assuming the minimum was 1 foot, but that's a decision for the council to make.
In advance of today's meeting, we've shared a few spots where I'll talk about stop 15. There's a tree, a pine tree that's kind of leaning over into the roadway on the north side of the road. And if you look closely at that pine tree, and Street Superintendent Dolph and I have looked at this tree numerous times, large box trucks or even our fire trucks, as they go down Lakeshore Drive, this tree over the years has leaned out so much, you can see the grooves in the tree that were constantly, the box trucks are just hitting it, like the Ryder and budget moving trucks. So we've pointed out obstructions that we feel need to be removed. But to President Schmidt's comment earlier, the goal here is for us to not cause the least obstruction we can cause along Lakeshore Drive is kind of the goal, even as a police department. We see it every day, the walkers, the bikes, everything that's going on out there. Yes, our accidents are at a minimum and that we've shared that before, but we've got to look at the overall safety. Lakeshore Drive is our heaviest traveled roadway, particularly in the summer months and that. So we've identified the obstructions to the team, and they're not major, if that helps, Doc. So.
Any more comments in the audience? John?
John Wall, 2022 Juneway. I was in road building for about 30 years, so this is an area that I have a little bit of expertise. I just want to make a few comments in favor of the council and in their decision-making capacity. I want to talk about full depth versus the resurfacing. The one thing that full depth will allow us to do, we do have some money in the estimates for the resurface project for drainage work. On the other hand, we're only talking about taking 4 inches out of that pavement right now. That introduces a couple of variables that are unknown. When you take 4 inches off, we don't know exactly where the top of that old concrete is. So we may take 4 inches off and be biting into the concrete. We may take 4 inches off and leave an inch of pavement there. So it's problematic to think that we're going to take exactly 4 inches off and we're going to miss the concrete in one case, or we're going to not impact the concrete. So that's a problem for mill and pave. It's not quite as simplistic as you might think. In addition to that, if we leave those little thin layers in there and overlay it, that's one more of the sandwich, so to speak, that's weak. So you're going to introduce more unknown in terms of long-term maintenance in that situation. I want to make a point about CCMG. There were some comments made during this process of public input relative to, hey, we may not get CCMG 2 years from, so why commit to a larger project? If we don't get any CCMG money, we're not going to be able to do any of this. The town traditionally has spent, I don't know, Tom can talk a little bit about it, but we've only been able to spend maybe $250,000 on our best year going back. We've never had this kind of money available to us. We've done such great work in the last 5-6 years with this CCMG money, as you all are aware. We're able to do some stormwater work. We now have stormwater funding based on that fund that you all pay into. So we're able to do some great work. If we don't get any CCMG money, we can't even resurface Lakeshore Drive, period. So to say that you don't want to do a larger project just because you're worried about not getting CCMG money is illogical. We should go after whatever we can go after under the auspices of whatever is the best plan for the long-term interests of the town. I want to talk about reflective cracking real quick. In addition to what Ryan talked about and Sam talked about, where you got a layer underneath there and that reflective crack comes over the top of a crack that's already there, you also have the movement of the earth. So believe it or not, even though you think in terms of Antarctica and, major shifts in Earth's crust, this Earth is moving all the time, particularly when we're in a climate like we are, where there's freeze and thaw cycles. Mike's in the game. He understands what I'm talking about. When you get cracks and water gets in there or the water table comes up, the ground gets saturated, freeze and thaw cycles, it's always moving, okay? And it's always moving in that top 3 or 4 feet where we have issues with the concrete slabs. So you got a concrete slab, it's like spreading jelly over your peanut butter. You got a concrete slab that's hard. In many cases, it's broken, it's irregular, and it's not wide enough. That movement then introduces more movement at the top of the pavement structure. So that's where reflective cracking is aggravated even
Have
more.
to
than
wrap it up, John.
Sorry?
Can you wrap it up? It's
Okay. Highway 20 is a great example. If you guys travel west at all, Highway 20 is a great example of what happens when you widen a road. If any of you watched that, Reith Riley went in there about 5-6 years ago, put 4 inches on there. It's just exactly like it was 5 years ago. It's all beat up. If you drive that thing, you'll see it. The widening is all screwed up. That's because they left the old pavement structure in and the widening is still where it is. So we're going to wind up with the same situation if we don't do the full depth removal. Lateral offsets, we talked about that. Just like you guys, if you live on Lakeshore Drive and you got these tight parking spaces and you back out, if there's an obstruction at your neighbor that you can't see. So part of this lateral offset situation, nobody's trying to get in your shorts. The idea is to make it safer for everybody. The thing that Bob talked about is a very real thing. That should be cut off, that thing at my mom and dad's old house. But there's hundreds of them. At 28, there's one that the plow has hit a number of times. We've actually had to replace some parts on the plow because he smacked into somebody's got a big old piece of limestone sticking out in the road. That's all we're talking about. Nobody's taking property. And one last comment, when you guys talk about property, you ought to be aware there's a 50-foot right-of-way out there. You don't own all the way to the roadway edge currently. Your property line is back from that center line about 30-some feet, 25 feet. So really, we're not taking property in any case, and we don't intend to take anything more than little slivers if we do indeed choose to realign. That's it.
Thank you, John. Any more comments in the audience? Ryan?
Just something came to my mind here that we've talked about in the report, but I don't think we've mentioned in public. And I think it's especially relevant given John's comments about reconstruction versus not reconstructing. So as part of the CCMG grant process with INDOT, you have to do an assessment of all of the roads in your community. And that particular assessment is called PASER, P-A-S-E-R. It stands for Pavement Surface Assessment and Rating. So it's a standardized way of looking at a road and determining what condition it's in. And that rating goes from 10 being a brand new road all the way down to, is it 0 or is it 1? 0. So 0 or mostly 1, that being the lowest quality road that is conceivable, really. Something that's completely failed. And they kind of break that out into 3 groups of roads. So if you're in like 10, 9, 8, that's a pretty good quality road. If you're in the 7, 6, 5, I think it includes 4, maybe 2. That's sort of the middle quality of road. And they usually recommend, so in the top group, they're not really recommending that you do very much, if anything, to the road because it's in such good quality and good condition. If you're in the middle section, they recommend some remediative kind of things that you would do to the road. If you're in the worst condition, so that's like 1, 2, 3, then they recommend really reconstructing the road because you have significant base failure of the road. The road is no longer structurally intact. The assessment of Lakeshore Drive puts it in a 2 and 3 category of road. So when INDOT sees that, they would expect to see something like a reconstruction. Just again, because that's what condition the road is in based on the assessment. So I just thought I would mention that so you know what, objective rating this road has currently.
Ryan, you want to touch on how that affects CCMG's analysis of the information?
So I can't really speak to how they review the applications or what they prioritize. I know that they give money out to a broad range of projects that could include minor things, but it's possible that they might prefer larger, more substantial projects, but I can't really speak to their criteria. They don't make that public. So
Thank you,
Yes, I
Ryan.
have a question, please.
Oh, I'm not doing Zoom yet. We're not doing Zoom yet.
I'll get to Zoom in a second. Any more comments in the audience here?
Dave Littell, 2520 Oriole Trail. So we could, how much costs are involved? Let's say we want to go for this grant, and how much money are we going to spend in anticipation of, getting everything together, and then find that maybe we won't get the grant?
Well, you mean in engineering?
Yeah. In other words, in preparing for the
I
grant,
believe we
how much-
approved, is it $115,000?
110.
$110,000 for engineering?
okay, so that's what we're gambling in a way that this law happened. And if it doesn't happen,
Yes,
then we have to, great, thank you.
yes. Any more comments in the audience?
I just have one quick question.
Name and
Thomas
address,
Naver-
please.
Thomas Naver, 2305 Lakeshore Drive. During your assessment and preparation work on Lakeshore Drive, have you discovered many like really gross encroachments on the current roadway that need to be addressed? Like that are already significantly encroaching beyond their property line? I can think of one that's pretty obvious, but
Just like the chief mentioned earlier, there are quite a few. When you drive along the corridor, definitely you will see some planters coming out in certain locations and trees. Also, there are some prominent ones that are out there right now. Yes.
I just want to add, being that we're still in the conceptual stage of this project and we have not quite finished doing the initial topographic surveying of the right of way, and we're only in a limited respect beginning the preliminary design process, an assessment of all of those different potential, impacts and encroachments and so forth. We haven't done that yet. We're not at that stage yet. So we're moving into that stage. We'll know more about that as the preliminary design is advanced.
Also, to that point, the goal is as we identify those, let's say, encroachments that need to be addressed in the project, once today's decision is made, we plan on speaking to the homeowners as well. This isn't just going to be something that's going to roll out and the homeowners never hear from a town representative. We will have coordination from the project team, from, my office and the town's representatives that will be reaching out and having conversations, if they need to occur.
Hi, Julie Burke, 2601 Lakeshore Drive. I would like the board just to give us an evaluation of our position in Long Beach as far as affording a project like this right now. I understand the grant money is capped at $1 million a year if it's granted to us. Is that something that we apply for then every year, or is it based on our project goals every year? So in addition to that, if we opt for Plan D, which is the most, it's the largest option by far, and at 4.7 million, that could change too. So where does Long Beach stand as far as funding? I know Indiana Department of Transportation would be responsible for possibly 80% of the cost, 20% locally. How are we set up to even handle 20% of this cost? Thank you.
Thank you. We do plan for this every year, so when we budget every year, that's all worked into the plan. Yes. Altogether, the whole town, we have a lot of money.
I think the five-year capital plan for the town, that the previous town council had established a 5-year capital plan for the town of Long Beach. And Meg Collins, our clerk treasurer, can speak to it, that in the 5-year capital plan, each of the 5 years, we have set aside a minimum of $400,000 a year to cover our matching grant funds and any engineering costs related to any road paving that we have. So every single year for the next 5 years, we have it in the capital plan to continue doing road improvements in the town of Long Beach. And it is either through stormwater funding that we get every year, approximately $240,000 a year in stormwater funds come into that particular fund. Those funds can be used as part of our 20% matching funds. So just utilizing that funding source covers our 20% matching right there. So it does. It covers our 20% match plus engineering, but not the grant. The grant, the 80% would come from the state. As Ryan touched on earlier, if by chance there's a year that we are passed on the CCMG grant from the state, we just won't pave that year. We'll reapply the next year, and then what was maybe a 3-year phased-in project now becomes a 4-year phased-in project. We just have to wait until the grant funds. And it happens with grants, unfortunately.
Any more comments in the audience?
I'm Sharon Sylvester. My family has 2 properties, 1525 Lakeshore Drive and 1504 Lakeshore Drive. You talked about moving the utility poles. We have post or mailboxes also that are in the way in front of the utility pole in front of my house. Haven't seen anyone talk to the post office?
Well, no, everyone would be responsible to move their own mailbox.
Okay, at our expense. Okay, that's what I wondered. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments in the audience? Okay, we'll open up to comments on Zoom.
I don't know how to raise my hand.
If you have a comment, can you raise your hand? How do we do that, Chief?
I don't know how to raise
We can, I guess I can start from the top. Tony has his hand up. So Tony, if you want to start.
Yeah, hi. Thank you for the time. So briefly, there's a few questions that maybe
Name and address, please.
Tony Lasuzo, 2024 Lakeshore Drive.
Good.
So I assume that when we did the pavements off of Lakeshore Drive, that a similar analysis was done on the encroachments, and if not, I would wonder why the streets were not widened anywhere else, because the process should be similar for the whole town, not just one street. Second, I think narrowing Lakeshore Drive is only going to make it more dangerous because people will go speeding. I try to drive like 20 miles an hour on that road, and I think everyone would. And if we widen it, it's only going to make it worse. Also, the engineer had just mentioned that they haven't actually done an analysis of individual encroachments. And I'm curious how the board could actually vote on behalf of the residents if they don't understand the actual encroachments on the residents. I think that would be a fool's errand to vote on something where we don't have all the data. And I see that in this place. And I'm just speaking here because I actually don't think my property will get hurt very bad, but I think my neighbor across the street's going to get hit. So I am in favor of, first of all, not widening the roads. And second of all, if we are widening the roads, we have to reevaluate how we make decisions in the town on Lakeshore Drive and everything else. Because right now it seems like there's 2 separate decision-making processes, and I think those should be aligned. Thank you. And if you could address the question of not voting on representing each individual of the town and voting without knowing the encroachments. And if I'm incorrect, I would appreciate the engineer to correct me. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Any more comments on Zoom?
Michelle, if you want to go. Michelle has her hand up.
Yes, hi. Michelle Stevenson, 2515 Lakeshore Drive. As stated already, CCMG is not a guaranteed source of funding and has actually become more competitive to receive, with some local units not even receiving any awards. Feel it would be financially prudent to keep project costs lower. Also, if Lakeshore Drive is widened, some residences, including ours, will lose parking space. We would only have parking for 2 vehicles and would be in violation of Municipal Code 154.058. We do not have the option to construct additional parking space due to our lot size. Also, I'd like to continue to say that all streets in Long Beach should be treated the same and not just widened in some streets and not others. It's for these reasons that I believe option A is the best choice to repave but not widen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. William, you're next. Name and address.
He's on mute.
Oh, William, you're on mute, sir. You have to unmute yourself.
Sorry. Bill Eichhorn, 2940 Lakeshore Drive. John mentioned that there's funding for drainage and flood control. I guess I'd like to understand to what extent that's going to be addressed. Because the last time Lakeshore Drive was repaved, my lot became the sinkhole for the entire area, and it flooded dramatically after a heavy rain. I spent a lot of money to try to mitigate that. I still have a big issue. And there's a blocked drain just south of my property that I can't seem to get the town to clear. So I guess want to understand a little more about the drainage work that would be done. I'd also appreciate if you could remind why we're not going to put in pipes for potential sewers down the road. I know this was addressed in the last meeting, but I can't remember why. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Jack, Carrie, you're next. Jack, you have your hand up. If you could state your name and address, please.
I think it's Joan.
All right. Since no response from Jack, Abby Neary, you're next.
Thank you all, and thank you for hosting this session today. Abby Neary, 2019 Lakeshore Drive. A couple of comments and then a question or two. So as others have stated, I've not seen any studies that see increasing the roof safety. The Haas report indicates that they do not recommend painting the road. I'm against this and am for what the chief mentioned in a prior meeting is to put in crosswalks and potential signage on the road for which way you should be walking and which way you should be biking. I also want to say I agree with Mr. Lazzuzo. How can we make a decision if we've not yet determined the encroachments or the impact to the homeowners? And a big question I have around this is, since that has not been taken into the funding considerations at this point, what is the town's plan for funding this? And you can answer that in a moment. I also want to say I agree with the other homeowners. There is no precedent for this. As you've repaved many streets in Long Beach, you have not widened them for safety. I have records of building permits allowing Lakeshore Drive residents to improve in that right of way at their own personal expense. And also have seen renderings for new buildings on Lakeshore Drive that have been permitted, not including the widening of Lakeshore Drive. Last 2 points are, there has been a petition circulating. 120 households have voted against this. I would like to know from the council, how many emails have you actually received in favor of widening Lakeshore Drive? And then the last question is to Dr. LeMay's point, a little clarification in that you're proposing 20 feet, or at least proposing today, I think, to determine will it be 20 feet and then plus an additional lateral offset that is not taken into consideration in the Haas renderings? Thank you.
I didn't show any other hands up. Is there anyone else on Zoom that has any public comment? I do not show any other hands up at this time.
John Mengel.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I didn't know how to put my hand up electronically, so I had to use my real one. Just a few comments, and I appreciate the opportunity that town council provides for town input. And you're going to make the decision you make, but I guess some input from my end. Widening the street will increase speed. So you need to come to grips with that. It will have people walking 4 across instead of 3 across, or bicycles being 3 across instead of 2, etc. It is going to choke down on the space between parked cars and people driving and or walking. So we are going to make the situation tighter at higher speeds. And sometimes, particularly in busy weekends, and that's the biggest concern, cars are parked in parallel fashion along the street. So it would be easy. Now the door opening in that fashion is going to be closer to traffic. It's going to be more difficult for people getting things out of their trunk, all that kind of stuff. So I would ask you to take that into consideration. As far as the project scope goes, I would be in favor of a mill and repave for a couple reasons. A full rebuild would be great, and the road would be nice and all that. That's great. But every house on Lakeshore Drive is a tear down. It doesn't matter how new or how old it is. These houses are all going to be torn down when they turn over. And what happens is they're hemmed in by the front setback, and then they're hemmed in by the absolute depth of the house. So they can only go sideways. So people with the funds to do so will buy multiple houses and build a larger house, and it'll be in length, not depth. So that's something you should consider. The other piece is the reflective cracking. Really, I think we can help mitigate that by a better repair protocol after excavations. So new road or not, all the rebuilding that constantly goes on Lakeshore Drive, the road's going to be torn up and rebuilt. So however you repair it, you do need to come up with some sort of repair protocol that does not create the reflective cracking. So that's what do you got here?
Thank you, John. Mike,
That's all I have.
Mike Gorman.
Thank you for recognizing my hand raised in this little screen. I agree with all the comments by the prior speakers. As you have noted, most everyone has pointed out issues with this project. Page 12 of the Haas report dated January 9, 2026 comments on the significant cost increases that will come to this project when you have to remove things in the lateral offset. And those have been pointed out to you at this point. Page 13 of the Haas January 6 report comments that the program director from the state of Indiana has noted how much more competitive this grant awarding is. There were 363 applications for this current year. Of that, 190 were awarded, which means approximately 50% of those who applied were denied. I will also go back to John Mengel just mentioned the safety aspect. That seemed to be more prominent when we spoke on October 30th at your session that you held. And I will go back and just read what I sent to the board on November 3rd with my comments from that meeting. As stated by Chief Swistak towards the end of the October 30th workshop, the problem is that drivers are looking at Lake Michigan. Increasing the width of Lakeshore Drive will not change this behavior. Increasing the width of that street will only increase the speeds of cars. It will not do anything to help safety. So thank you for the opportunity to give you my comments.
I show 2 more hands up.
Okay.
Dave Miniak, you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. I'm Dave Miniat,
I live at 2949 Lakeshore Drive, and I also have the property at 2943. First of all, thank you for having this meeting. Although I will have to say, I've heard many people ask questions and I've not heard any answers. So I don't know if this is a meeting where we just ask questions and nobody can or we don't get answers. Or maybe you're writing them down and you're going to address each one of the questions that was answered. I think that would be respectful of the residents that have voiced their opinion. I have nothing new that has been said. In general, I am not in favor of widening Lakeshore Drive. I agree that it is going to cause more problems with respect to speed and those other things. So all in all, I think common sense would say that you've got an issue here that there's over 100 people that are not in favor of it. And if the council votes in this, it's almost like forcing it down our throats, particularly if questions aren't answered. I think it would be a simple thing to take some time and meet with it and whatever Lakeshore Drive residents would be interested in meeting with the engineering company to get an idea how the encroachment would affect them. I think that would be common courtesy. And I think it would go a long way in getting support for the project if you want to do it. So thank you.
Eric, you have your hand up?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. Just a few comments and questions. So, one, in terms of the lateral offset, my comment on that is, 4 feet seems pretty extensive. I understand some amount is needed, but I would be concerned about the 4 foot. It was also unclear to me to achieve whatever lateral offset they're trying to get, whether that involves, digging that out or whether it's just removal of structures. Is it a dig out and replace with asphalt, or it just wasn't totally clear to me. Earlier on the first call that we had about this a while back, there was a lot of discussion about shoulder. So it seemed like the 3 elements of the road were going to be, the road itself, the paved road, the shoulder, and then the lateral offset. And I didn't see any discussion or recommendation about that. And it was my understanding that shoulder would also, the amount of space attributed to a shoulder would also widen that road, widen the cut, that kind of thing. So I just would like to see more on that or understand what's going to happen with that. I think I expressed before, my sense is widening the road is going to increase speeds. So, I appreciate improving its condition and maybe some areas where it's widened, but just generally, I'm not supportive of a material widening of the road. And then, I'm a recent homeowner. 2505 Lakeshore Drive is where we're at. We just bought there less than a year ago, and I understand that there was something before we did that about sewers. I don't know if that's a dead issue, but it's certainly something we would be interested in, and seems like an important issue, and that something we'd want to really understand before we go make this kind of investment in a road. If there's the potential for a sewer job that would then just tear it up again. So. Those are my comments. I am supportive of a repaving of the road, and generally, but those would be my limitations on that. Thank you.
I don't show any other hands up.
Okay, last call for comments on Zoom. Anybody else? Okay, not seeing any.
Can we address some of those questions in a
Sure.
general way? Maybe if Ryan or Sam wants to.
I could start help with Ryan or Sam. I did have a question too about the shoulder. Like, I understand the lateral offset and the width of the road, but what is the recommendation, or how does the shoulder play into your recommendation?
So I think that's a good point. There was some discussion about shoulder and how that comes into play here with the overall design. Essentially, the shoulder would come into play in certain stretches of road where there's like grass or dirt or something like that. It's not a permanent material that's confining the road. And the reason you want to include that shoulder on there is so that when people drive their vehicles and they roll over the edge of that road, that can really start to deteriorate it and create a positive feedback loop where you just continue to have freeze and thaw there, and it tears up the road and ruins the road. So by putting in a line and then adding some shoulder in those locations, you can help preserve the road and have a better return on your investment, so to speak. You have anything else to add about that? Are there any other questions from the council?
But that's different than the lateral offset.
Correct. The shoulder would only come into play, like I said, in those locations where there's not some permanent material, concrete, bricks, asphalt, or something that's laterally confining the road. It's just where there's no confinement currently. We're not just going to end the road and, especially with somewhat narrow, not 10-foot lanes, if that's what the council chooses, that's just, people are bound to roll over those edges. And so we want to protect against that and add a little shoulder in those locations.
Seems like there's some misunderstanding.
Yeah.
About how much of the road is
So basically, the roadway right now, the average width of the roadway is around 19.25. And in some locations, we have up to 25 feet. So meaning that we are going to be converting it to maybe a lawn area or try to make it consistent all the way. And it's only in few locations where we are increasing just a sliver just to make it uniform all the way. So technically, I won't say it's a widening. We are not widening the roadway. We are trying to improve the uniformity of the roadway. And as I mentioned earlier, from the preliminary, from the conceptual design that we've done, the area of the roadway actually reduces at the end of the day. So if we make it consistent all the way, it reduces the footprint of the roadway. So it's not widening the roadway. We are trying to make it uniform. And making it uniform means that in some locations where we have, say, 18.5 or 19, we make it 20. In some areas where we have 25, we bring it to 20 and make it uniform all the way. So that's actually what we are trying to achieve, the consistency of the roadway, so it can be better for the road users, both the pedestrians and the drivers. And that is actually what I thought I should clarify. So it's not actually widening. We are trying to make the roadway consistent.
Individual property owners at this stage of the game again, because it seems to be misunderstanding that you guys exactly know what approaches are and how they can be addressed, which we don't know yet. We want to revisit that because that was
regarding the encroachment, there are stages, and we have the survey going on, and where we'll progress the design to preliminary engineering. After the preliminary engineering, you will see we will come back and show the council and the homeowners how the road improvement impacts, if at all it does, impacts the individual homeowner. We will share the preliminary engineering plans so that everyone will see what we've done so far. But at this stage of the game, we have not gone that far to really know how it impacts individual homeowners.
Sam,
why we're doing this now and why we have additional for these homeowners.
I want to talk about.
Sure. Like, just to reiterate what Sam was saying, in the broadly speaking, the project life cycle includes the conceptual phase, preliminary design, final design, and then construction. So right now we're at the very end of the conceptual phase. We're trying to get some marching orders from the town so that we can develop the preliminary design. But that preliminary design stage is always a flexible, kind of reactive, adaptive part of the project life cycle, where there's input from the town council, there's input from stakeholders, especially, when we start to put the design on paper and you can actually start to see how it may affect your driveway or this tree or whatever it may be, then you have more of a dialogue and a refined dialogue. But we're not at that stage yet. We just simply haven't gotten to that phase in the project life cycle yet.
Can I just make a quick comment about that, Ryan, where I know Dave Miniat particularly mentioned he's not trying to be rude. Is anyone going to answer? Over 100 people are not in favor. We're forcing it down their throats. It affects the entire town. The blanket statements about that, this town council and Chief Swistek and our street superintendent, Tom Dolph, we have walked Lakeshore Drive. We have looked at this. We have studied it. We've met. We've talked to people. We do not just try to force it down your throat. We have looked at Lakeshore Drive. We see there's maybe a planter that maybe you have to remove 20 bricks, not 1,000 bricks. But we have tried to talk to all of you. We have tried to move forward sensibly. We have tried to move forward looking at different properties, understanding. And this is being viewed as, and again, an improvement to Lakeshore Drive. It was last done long ago. The town has worked very well with our clerk treasurer, with the funding, with making sure that we have a 5-year plan, with making sure that we have funds available. We may or may not get the CCMG grant, and we understand that, but the roadway needs to be improved. And when you look at it, that in some parts it's 17.5 feet, and in some parts it's 25 feet, we're not coming in and saying, we want to tear down your planters, your trees, your mailboxes. We're going to put poles in your driveways. We are not looking to do that. We're looking to improve Lakeshore Drive. It needs to be improved. And we're not trying to shove things down Lakeshore Drive owners' throats. We all live in Long Beach. We all utilize Lakeshore Drive. We walk it. We do go there. And I mean, I'm a full-time homeowner here and I use different streets as well. So I'm just as vested in Long Beach as you are. And Mr. Boyce, you constantly say that you pay more money because you live on Lakeshore Drive. And I pay just as much money in real estate taxes based on the home that I own. And I am just as vested, and I love giving to Long Beach and my time. And I think that you're underestimating your council and Chief Stek and your street department and your employees here. We do study, and Sam and Ryan are available and they talk to us and they provide us with documents. And I think that we will make a good decision for this town. And that's what we're doing here. And I'm grateful for the help and the support of the town, and we will do the best we can. Thank you. I don't know. It's up to Joy.
Go ahead.
Can I respond to that since my name was called out?
Is it Dave?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I apologize if I came across as in any way that was disrespectful. That's not the intention. And by the way, thank you for clarifying all the work and that you've done and that you sincerely, as a council, are trying to make the best decision. So I don't doubt that at all, and I thank you for that, and I'm very happy you clarified that. I think the thing that I'm thinking, or what I'm talking about, is a bit of common sense in this way. Is that I know we've got to move forward. I know there's a deadline to get this done, but on the other hand, if all that work was done that you said, meeting with people, talking with people, and so on and so forth, and there is still 100, and there's still 100 people that are not favoring it, then something is wrong with this project. I mean, if what you said is correct, and and I have no doubt that you guys have put a ton of work into this and are sincere and did a lot. But if you still, with all that, you're having this much objection or questioning on it, I think you've got to sit back and, as you know, as representatives of the residents in this town, that maybe there's something wrong with this project, or maybe we need to push it off here. I don't know.
Can I
But
just
that's
answer
what's-
real quickly, Dave?
Sure.
Chief has made a list. I mean, well, we have comments from many Lakeshore Drive owners. I'm not going to say everyone, but from many. And there is support for the project to varying degrees. So I kind of take issue with it if you have over 100 people not in favor of the project. That's a real big blanket statement, Dave. So I don't want to really,
Yes.
Oh, I don't want to get into a debate, but that's a real big blanket statement to me if they're not in favor. People are in favor of varying degrees, and we're listening to that. So I appreciate
Well,
it.
I apologize then, because I heard the numbers
Thank you.
from that was said before. So, but anyways, if that's the case and you've got common agreement on it, then
Thank you,
I
Dave.
stand corrected.
Thank you, Dave. Bob?
You have to go to the microphone, Bob. You have to go to the microphone so people on Zoom can hear.
Well, they'll step over.
It's just they can't hear on Zoom otherwise, Bob.
I've had, and I asked both these people from Haas, I've had many people ask me what the stakes in their yards donate. What do they mean? They've had stakes with a fluorescent flyer on them. And they said, does that mean I'm going to lose this much of my property? And I'm just wondering what that's staking, because you staked out Lakeshore Drive. You surveyed it and staked it, right? Yes.
Survey is ongoing, and I'm just hearing about the stakes right now. So we'll have to revisit it. But staking actually doesn't mean that it doesn't mean anything for now. For now, we don't know. I will have to revisit it and check with our surveyor and see what is out there right now and what it implies. So I can't answer your question specifically right now.
Okay. That's all I needed to know.
I think, Bob, to your point, I've watched the survey work, went out on patrol over the last couple of weeks. And what Jeff Swanson from their office has been doing is he's been going from the roadway off into the right-of-ways and is establishing where the right-of-ways are at. That doesn't mean, because if there is a stake, let's just say that Jeff did put it there hypothetically, that we're expanding the road that far. He's just identifying where the right-of-ways are to report back to the office so they can finish on this preliminary drawing. Because we're under survey work right now. That was approved by the council, and that work's been ongoing for the last 2 weeks. So that's probably what you're seeing out there.
What does that mean?
Yeah, but at the same time, I've seen 811 out there for other projects marking things that's totally unrelated to this project. So I think sometimes there's confusion, and then we assume, and then when we assume, we start to panic. So, but yeah, but I've been watching it, as the crew has as well.
I'll just add to that, Mark, that I can't speak to what stakes you're referring to, obviously, but when you're out there doing a survey, the purpose is to collect information. Like I was saying before, at this point in the life cycle of the project, we're not we don't know where proposed features would even be yet. So there wouldn't, any stakes that are out there are probably references to controlled monuments or, potentially other things related to completing the topographic survey collection of information. There could also be stakes from other projects or things that don't have anything to do with this project. So I wouldn't just assume that they have something to do with proposed features. That would be definitely premature at this point.
It seems clear that right now that if someone sees a stake, rather than a neighbor come to you and you to decide what it's going to mean, maybe you could suggest that people call the town hall and ask exactly what that stake means, since it could be several different stakes. So that might be a way to just stop any misinformation. Just say, call town hall and ask Chief Swistek what it means.
I will clarify one thing. There was a comment about if parking is lost, that now they would be non-compliant with a code. So there is a code that require 154.08 or something like that, that the town requires each homeowner to have 3 parking spaces on site, meaning their own property. And that's not always the case. There's lots of homes not compliant on Lakeshore Drive, not on Lakeshore Drive. It's an old community. Not every, that's just how it is. And that's been fine. So I just want to clarify that if that is a situation at the home right now, that they're saying if they lose one of their parking spots, they'll be like in non-compliance with the code. Technically, they're not compliant right now. No problem. But we're not taking parking and then saying, or I mean, I don't think there is a plan to take parking, but like I think some owners think we're going to be non-compliant now if we lose a parking spot that we are now using in the town right of way. If they're using the town right of way now, technically they're out of compliance and they still will be. So I'm just trying to say we're not trying to take parking and then make people non-compliant, and hopefully no one's parking will be affected. I mean, maybe like Anita said, a few bricks here or inches here or something like that, but not swooping in and taking somebody's parking. But that doesn't mean that they're compliant now and then they're going to be non-compliant. Basically, they're non-compliant now and they would still say non-compliant. So I'm just trying to clarify what that code means.
Any more council comments?
Joey, I think there was one question relative to sewers, and maybe Ryan can touch on. There is a private sewer project in front of the council currently, but that's a directional bore project that's under the roadway and that. And then I don't know if you want to talk to, there's no plans in the future.
We have no plans for a sewer in the future, but in my opinion, we'll never see a gravity sewer go down Lakeshore Drive. I think if a sewer gets put in, the whole rest of the town has to be low pressure because there's no room for lift stations. So why would we go to the expense of putting a gravity sewer down Lakeshore Drive? But that's just something that we don't have funding for right now, no matter what system we put down there. So in my opinion, if a sewer goes down there in the future, it'll be directionally bored and it won't tear up Lakeshore Drive. Any other council comments? Any other comments from anyone in the audience or anyone on Zoom? Last call. Okay.
I have my hand up. I don't know if you can see that. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, it's Kathy Frank at 1410 Lakeshore Drive. And just a clarifying question on the support, because I think what was referenced with respect to the 100 or the number that was mentioned was there was an informal survey that was done, and I think it was 120 people that were against widening, not against improving, but just widening. And so I guess from your comment around the support that you have, was there and I'm sorry if I missed this, was there a survey that was done for all the homeowners along Lakeshore Drive to assess that support, or how was that done? Because I think the one that we are referencing here is, and that's, I was part of that and I voted against widening, but I think that was done informally and someone started that just separately and not part of what was done by the town council. So just trying to understand that. Thank you.
Yeah, town council did not do a survey besides sending out an email, a blast email to everyone asking them to send their comments about the project to the town council.
We have 2 more hands up. CJ Dempsey has his hand up.
Hi, CJ Dempsey, 1534 Lakeshore Drive. Just a quick question. There is a diagram that is online attached to the rest of the information that Haas provided. Is that diagram based on a 10-foot wide lane?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sam. Yep. And then Mary's iPhone. Mary, you have your hand up? I have two Marys up. I have a Mary's iPhone.
I'm sorry. Thanks, Chief. Mary Keene at 2025 Lakeshore Drive. I wanted to go back to the parking issue that was just addressed. I have not read the code yet. I do intend to read the code. I have the only parking I have are 2 spots in front of my house. Years ago, we tried to change that and kind of move everything back into our front yard. We can't. That's where the septic field is. It can't be messed with. So, I mean, where does that put us? We'd have no access to our home.
Mary, we're not going to take your parking away.
No.
No.
So how would the road then, is the road going to be wider in some spots and narrow in others? I'm just not understanding it.
That may happen, yes.
Okay. Okay, because it's just a huge concern. I have a husband that is, compromised health-wise, and we don't know how we'd get to our house, let alone the value of it being destroyed.
Thank you, Mary.
So you can guarantee that our parking wouldn't be affected?
I can guarantee anything, but it's not anyone's intention.
I'm sorry? I can't hear.
I said, there's no guarantee in life of anything, obviously, but it's not our intention to do that. That's the best we can say. I mean, nobody intends to. That's why we have said, Sam and Ryan have said, it's going to be different. It's going to be the lateral offset could be a minimum of 1 foot and a maximum of 4. There's going to be considerations made during the actual, we're in the conceptual phase still. So once we, look at those are the kinds of issues where they're, in my opinion, your house would qualify as an extreme exception, that if the road needed to be widened in that particular area, that would be a definite, that we would not do that to you. But I'm just saying legally, we're not going to say guaranteed. I mean, who knows?
Okay.
You tear up the road and we find.
Okay.
But,
Okay, thank you.
I don't show any others.
Oh, the other Mary,
Oh, okay.
Mary O'Neill, 1532 Lakeshore Drive. I think part of the problem with this whole process is nobody from Lakeshore Drive has been involved in any sort of a committee. When you looked at who did the walk down Lakeshore Drive, there was no representation. And that might have helped if the people who have the most at stake are perhaps involved a little bit more. So communication definitely could be improved. Thank you.
Any more, Chief?
All good?
Okay. Seeing no more comments. We have a recommendation from the street department and Chief Swistek and our engineers. And so I would make a motion. I really think if we're going to spend this kind of money, we may as well do the whole road and.
Fuck you.
Thanks, Mary. Just
Okay.
to clarify, are we gonna vote or go down each option and talk?
Sure.
I didn't know what your plan was.
I don't have this with me. So you want to lead that discussion and go with each option?
Okay.
Or are we talking about what Chief sent us?
This is from Chief. I just am
okay.
talking, I'm
Yeah.
just asking, are we gonna vote on each,
Yes.
okay.
Okay.
I just want to know the plan.
So first, I would like to make a motion on selecting option D, full reconstruction to fix the ongoing reflective cracking. During the past several decades, there have been numerous areas of Lakeshore Drive that were either excavated or directional bored for utilities or other road work, and the subgrade is in need of full replacement. in our opinion. So full reconstruction would provide the greatest option of longevity for the roadway life cycle, 20+ years. Future cost of full reconstruction in approximately 10 years or more would be estimated at double the cost of current construction price, labor, and materials. So I would make the motion to select option D.
I would second that motion.
Any discussion?
Oh, I'm sorry. D is
As in dog.
I would just like to add, for clarification, in the next part, which we're going to vote separately, that we're recommending the 10-foot width, just so nobody thinks that it's anything crazy, that we're just, full reconstruction with minimal change to the width.
Okay. I'll amend the motion to
full reconstruction.
full reconstruction with 10-foot lanes.
Yes.
I have one quick question before we go again. By choosing the most expensive option, funding is still dependent on something that's not certain.
Right.
We know that. We know that. We know that.
Yeah.
All in favor? Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, number 2, select the design parameters. We recommend a 10-foot lane width, installation of dash lines down the center of the roadway, or no marking at all, which allows for open roadway concept. That's what the police department recommends. Not having a lot of markings on the roadway is less maintenance, and you don't have to reapply the markings every 4 to 5 years.
I have are we for discussion? I have agreement with the 10-foot lane width, but I would like to see the installation of dash lines down the center. I think it then allows for people to know if they can pass with golf carts and things like that going slower. Right now, there's a double yellow line and technically you can't pass. So I think we've maybe all been stuck behind a golf cart we'd like to pass. So it just is clearer then, I think, if there's a dash line that, yes, you are allowed to pass if it's safe. And then also I feel like having the dash lines will keep the bikers from not doing four wide or the walkers doing 8 wide, like keeps people a little bit in line with this is this side of the road and this is that side of the road. So I think that makes it safer for walkers and bikers and stuff. And also I think even though the police recommended no marking at all, to me, I feel like if there's somebody sideswipes you or there's some sort of accident, how on earth would we be able to say, well, you came onto my side or, that just, to me, the dash line just kind of helps keep people literally in their lane. So that's my recommendation. I want to go with the 10-foot lane width, but with dash lines.
Got a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, I'll second that. Is there any discussion?
I'm actually in favor of no lines on the street. I think that the dash line would confine people too much. I think that the police department's recommendation and the engineer's recommendation is great with no markings. I really don't think we need them on that road.
I agree. I would vote for the no markings.
Well, I just want to clarify, did you recommend no markings? Or that's just the police department's recommendation?
Our recommendation is that there be no markings on the road. Again, just kind of reiterate why that kind of creates the most uncertainty in the road. So drivers
Isn't uncertainty a bad thing?
Not in this case, because it causes a heightened awareness for the drivers, which causes them to slow down and pay more attention to their surroundings, including the numerous vulnerable road users that will be there. So that's why we made that recommendation. But I would say that our second best option would be a single center dashed line. We don't recommend a double solid line, as that creates too much of an inhibition to drivers to actually move and navigate naturally as they should be able to. And then there's no discussion so far about edge lines, so I won't comment on that. But
so then, Chief, what is the rule? If there's no center markings, you can't pass anybody ever? You can't pass a golf cart technically?
If there are
legally?
no center markings,
You can pass
you can pass anything. Yeah. There's no roadway markings. And we were, as a police department, we were split. Street Superintendent Dolph was of the opinion, a single dash line down the middle, which I don't agree with whatsoever. We're kind of torn. We either have no objection to no markings at all, or we do a single dash line down the middle, or we do no markings at all to start. And a year later, we decide we can come back and mark it then if we choose to. But then we miss out on, we can't include it in the grant. So we would then have to pay for it, 100% ourselves. So we, the police department, our stance is we're good with the single dash line down the middle, or we're good with nothing whatsoever. But definitely, we don't want to see a solid line down the middle, because we have seen drivers that will stay behind somebody and they're fearful if they drive over the center line that they'll be ticketed or something bad could happen. So, but I agree with Tom. Tom's been doing this a long time, 33 plus years. And if we want to put a single dash line, we've got no objection to that.
Okay, then I'd like to keep my motion on the table then to do the 10-foot lane with an installation of a single dash line down the center.
Any more discussion?
I think Ryan might have something.
Yeah, if I may, just since we're on the subject of the markings and you're making a motion about it, I just, so that it's transparent for everyone here and no one can say, well, you didn't, there's lines out there that showed up that you didn't talk about. With regard to the edge lines, we are recommended that there not be any edge lines except for where we install new shoulder. We talked about the shoulder that helps protect and confine the edges of the road. If we include that shoulder, we would want a line there and only in that location. So that helps keep people from going onto that edge and destroying the edge of the road. So there would be some edge lines out there in select locations. And so I just want to make that clear.
Should I amend the motion to include that
Mhm.
legally? Okay. So now again, I would make a motion to recommend 10-foot lane width with a center dash line down the center of the roadway and no edge lines unless there's a shoulder.
I'll second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Who opposed? Colleen
And Anita.
and Anita. Thank you.
Okay, roadway alignment. We recommend selective alignment as to not remove any current parking spaces along the corridor. Many of the Lakeshore Drive residents have limited parking and we wish to not remove any available parking that is currently in existence. So I would make a motion that we go with selective alignment.
Does C and D kind of go together, or I feel like,
I don't have your paper.
okay. I'll second that. And I would like to just add to, that's the whole point of this selective alignment, so that certain people, like extreme cases like the Keene family, isn't affected. But I just want to make clear, because a gentleman in one of our very first meetings, I think his last name was Athens, and they lived at stop 15 or 14. And he had a very real point saying they own property on the hillside, I believe, but it's not developed. So he was afraid that homes like that would get unfairly taken from. I think Bob sort of said the same thing. So I just want to, it's not my intention either to take anyone's parking, but I want to be fair that if we're looking at certain roads and this guy has parking and this person just has an empty lot, we don't just take from the empty lot because it's easier and cheap. I don't know what the balance is of that, but that's not fair either to just people that haven't encroached or haven't put parking. Like, especially my neighbors have asked because they have parking in the back. So on Lakeshore Drive, there's a lot of homes from at least 19 or 20 that go through trolley 24 that have parking in the back. So they don't use any of that parking in the front, but they still have grass or whatever. So I just don't want to see the people that haven't built to the roadway or whatever, it all be taken from them and everyone else who developed be left alone. I just want to be fair, because that guy in Athens, I think was the name, had a very good point. They were concerned that their empty lots would be the area where a big 4 feet would be taken from or something, because it was just available where other people aren't going to get it taken because they have nice bricks, and that's not fair. So that's just, but I do believe in selective alignment, and hopefully we can come to what's fair for.
Ryan, respond to that.
Okay.
Yeah, just a couple of things regarding like the equality of who, where right of way may be taken from the north or the south. I think the goal again is to take that on a case by case basis and try as much as possible to make that a fair, situation. But I think that it's possible that there may be a situation where you have to do one thing or another, and there's just nothing else you can do about it. So I wouldn't be too restrictive in your motion, but, and then the second thing is, if you're including any commentary or requirements regarding parking, you may want to be specific about how you define parking, because some people might think I'm parking cars in my driveway and that means parking, and maybe other people think areas for parallel parking is what defines parking. So you may want to make that distinction.
I think maybe then. Could I just clarify, recommend selective alignment with no taking of private property? I mean, because we can't make a motion to say we're not going to, someone's parking might be disrupted a few, 16 inches or something. It's the town's property, and we need to do what's right for the whole town, and everyone uses that street. So I don't think we should be so restrictive to say no parking at all will be disturbed, because there's no, like you guys said, you haven't done that deep drill to know each house, how much, where are you using it? What's the town right away? What's your private property? But I think we can all say no private property will be disturbed.
Can't we just say we recommend selective alignment?
Yeah, he was saying to be, yeah, so I think so. I would think so.
Right.
If I may, the private property, again, I think there is some ambiguity maybe of what that means. Technically, if it's in the public right of way, it belongs to the town.
Mm-hmm.
So, that if a private entity paid for that, they paid for it, but it's not theirs.
Right.
Because they built it on the town's property. So, I think that maybe is important to clarify as well.
So we have a motion and a second to recommend selective alignment. And we're really going to try not to remove any current parking spaces along the corridor.
I'll second
But
that.
I thought he said we don't know how to define a parking space. So wouldn't we just say we recommend selective alignment? Or is the goal to include the parking spaces?
No, I
could call what's
agree.
a parking space, like to define.
Right. I think we're
parking
too early
space.
in the game to say that. So I'm comfortable if we just
Recommend
would say-
selective alignment.
yeah, if you
Okay. I amend my motion to, we recommend selective alignment.
second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, lateral offsets, we recommend a minimum of 1 foot and a maximum of 4 feet in areas where the roadway width allows. The goal is to not disrupt any residential parking that's currently in place. And I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Oh, wait, I would just maybe like to recommend,
Let her second for discussion.
sorry.
I will second that.
Okay, any discussion?
Just to discuss, maybe to consider amending that emotion again, not to get too particular and putting ourselves in a corner about saying we're not going to disrupt, obviously not our goal, but I feel more comfortable just saying that we recommend a minimum of the 1 foot and a maximum of 4 feet, and then stop it there and have that be the motion rather than add in what we hope to do with.
But it says goal. So,
True.
so I think I'm comfortable with the way it is.
Me too.
Okay.
I think, having some of these things spelled out is maybe reassuring too, that, that we're stating our goal is to not disrupt any residential parking.
I don't know. Things are going to get disrupted. I mean, right, they're going to a little bit, but it could be an inch. It could
It
be.
says our goal.
Our goal.
Okay.
So
Colleen, do you have any thoughts?
I do. I mean, Long Beach, a lot of these homes are old. Some of them are in their second and third owners. these owners didn't put these things right next to the road. I just want to make sure that we're, taking into consideration, these things have been here for 50 years. I just want to be cognizant and have the goal of minimal disruption to people's property, minimal disruption to people's mailboxes. When you see the average width of the road is 19.25 feet and we're going to 20 feet. I mean, I'm terrible at math. I don't know, what is that, 8 inches, 8-inch difference between the average and the goal. To some people that is a lot, to some people that's nothing. I just want to make sure that we are being as least impactful, as little impactful as we can be when we're doing this. It's,
I agree.
okay, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Traffic control devices. We recommend adding a new stop sign at stop 16 for both west and eastbound Lakeshore Drive traffic. By adding the new stop sign, the goal is to slow traffic along the stretch of Lakeshore Drive. Pedestrian crosswalk road markings at each stop sign along the corridor and stop bars painted on the Lakeshore Drive roadway at each stop sign. I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yes, I would like to break this up maybe into different
Yeah.
parts because I'm fine with the stop sign at 16. And I like the idea of the stop bars painted on the LSD, the Lakeshore Drive roadway, but I'm not in favor of pedestrian crosswalks. Couple reasons. Yes, lots of maintenance and repainting of those, but I feel like it takes away from the character of the town. And here we have roads that aren't going to have any markings, but yet they're going to have crosswalks at every access point. Now, if we only had one access point to the beach and it was super busy, then yeah, I feel like we should probably have a crosswalk at whatever that would be. But there's so many access points. So like at my stop at 22, a lot of the stops the road leads right down to the stop. So where would you put the crosswalk? You would have to walk into someone's yard, or you'd have to take a different path instead of like going down Chastleton and going straight to the beach. You'd have to unless the crosswalk's going to be literally in the middle of the road, you have to then go over to get to the crosswalk. I don't like the look of.
But there's only how many stop signs along Lakeshore Drive? 3?
But they're saying putting.
At stop signs, not stop
Just the stop
points.
Well,
Not
yeah,
at
still,
access
but
points, only at the stop signs.
so
on
then there would
Lakeshore
be
Drive.
16,
Where are the stop signs?
20,
20, 22.
22,
Well, yeah.
24.
No.
Brian, what's your thoughts on it?
Oh, there's not all.
30.
stop
Yeah.
signs. Not
Where are
on
the
Lakeshore
stop
Drive.
signs? Do you,
22.
Well, our,
At 24. Yeah, because I live at 22. So that's 7.
I would amend my motion because I actually tend to agree with you.
I agree
I
too.
was
There's one at 30.
Many.
Tom was just saying they're at 28, 24, 22, 20.
And 16.
And 16, that's a lot.
16.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
it was the 31, stop 31. Is that us or?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Us.
okay.
oh, Tom.
We kind of feel like this at this time would be for this phase of the project. So if this phase of the project only covers stop 13 to say stop 20. So, stop sign placement, traffic control devices, whatever like that is only what we're voting on. I would suggest that it's only for this phase. And then on the second phase, if we see that we need anything else or take away or anything like, then it would be phase 2. We address the traffic control, stop signs, or whatever else we want to do at that point.
Thank you, Tom. I'm going to amend my motion to say we recommend adding a new stop sign at 16 for both west and eastbound Lakeshore Drive. And leave it at that.
I agree.
Second.
Any more discussion?
If I may add just a clarification about the crosswalks, we are putting together preliminary designs for the entirety of the project. So from 13 all the way to 31. It may be helpful for people to see what you are planning for crosswalks in other segments that may not be constructed in the initial construction phase. So it might be useful to decide that, otherwise they won't show up on the plans. And, you know, during preliminary design, when you're looking for input, they won't see things. And so that might be something to consider. Additionally, with regard to stop bars, that's not really an option. That's required to be in compliance with the METCD. The crosswalks, as you pointed out, Kendra, you know, it is a little bit awkward since there are no sidewalks out there. It's like, where do they go to and from? I totally agree with that. That's a concern and kind of a consideration. With that being said, there's nothing preventing you from having those crosswalks. You can have a crosswalk wherever you like. So that's up to the council to decide.
Okay.
You have to be cautious too, though, if somebody's outside that crosswalk and gets hit, you're gonna have an issue with legal liability in that case. And then I also think you got ADA issues when you put a crosswalk in that we haven't talked about. I don't know if you want to address that or not, but as soon as you introduce a crosswalk, you've got some ADA issues.
That's a great point, John. A crosswalk would be an accessible way, which would be under the rules and regulations of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So it would have to be not have too much of a slope in different directions. I don't see a lot of problems with that, but I think that's a good point and appreciate you bringing that up, John.
So would we then have to, so Kendra, to your point where Joy, we already passed at adding a new stop sign, would,
No, we didn't.
We haven't voted.
oh, we haven't voted yet. So, but then, so a different motion would be the stop bars painted because you said those are.
I would include, I'll amend it to add the stop bars painted on Lakeshore Drive, but not the crosswalk.
Which we have to, he said anyways.
He said, yeah, that's done
Right.
anyway. Yeah, okay.
So take out the crosswalks,
Yeah.
road markings.
You want to remake your motion?
So I'll amend my motion to, we recommend adding a new stop sign at stop 16 for both west and eastbound Lakeshore Drive traffic and stop bars painted on Lakeshore Drive roadway at each stop sign.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Drainage and stormwater considerations, our street superintendent, Tom Dolph, has provided stormwater concerns and recommendations to Haas. And this is going to be ongoing, I think, through the whole project, and he'll continue to provide feedback through each phase of Lakeshore Drive for the next 3 or 4 years. And stormwater funds would be recommended for part of the town's CCMG matching funds for each phase of the overall project. I don't know if this needs motion.
I don't think
I
so.
don't think so, but that's our intention.
I just think it's important too for people to know that it is being kept track of. I don't know if everyone knows Tom Dolph, but he's our street superintendent. And I think it's important you both are, you're all keeping track of.
No, and we appreciate the information we've received already from a handful of Lakeshore Drive homeowners sending us photos of standing water after the rain and that. I can assure you all of those photos, information has been shared with the engineering team. In fact, we just got another email yesterday from a resident that had some very good photos of some standing water near the 2900 block of Lakeshore Drive. So all that information is saved. When we get to that phase 3 of the project, it'll all be encompassed in the overall design and that. So thank you. Continue to send us that information because, you know, it is important to us. So thank you.
Okay, I believe that's all we have to vote on, correct? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Noon.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.